Good morning, good evening, whatever you're doing right now, wherever you are in the world, whatever time you're listening. That's the beauty of podcasting. Welcome to the Fins Talk Sports Network and this show, Touchdown in Paradise. I'm Justin,
I'm Pete.
I'm Joe.
I'm Russ.
and we welcome you in off of a big upset this weekend that happened in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, that I happened to call last week. Let's go. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but we have some news that came about on Saturday night that broke. And it's just kind of sad and shattering for him and anybody involved in the school. But we got reports from USA Today that Mel Tucker ended amid sexual harassment allegations at Michigan State. According to USA Today, Brenda Tracy, who's a prominent rape survivor and activist, said Mel Tucker made sexual comments and did something else without consent during a phone call. I don't want to get too innuendo here. But the two had teamed up in the past to fight sexual harassment on campus. And allegedly, too, they did have a relationship with each other consensually. Well, first off, I got to say this. In the immediate outfall, it's just got to suck for those players to see the guy who recruited them go down and see all this unfolding. And you're immediately thinking, what's next? Is there going to be a coach here? Is he going to keep his job? Is he just gone? Let's start with Joe here. When you heard this news, what were your thoughts?
Wow. I mean, I was at a loss for words. I mean, all the hard work that Mel Tucker's kind of done to really try to rebuild Michigan State. I think it was his first year, and I think they made it to the Rose Bowl or to a pretty prominent bowl. I think it may even been the CFP. And now he may not even get another job again, let alone, step on that football field in Michigan State. So, just wow, and couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and it's funny. Pete and I were watching the UCF game and the Texas game at LMB Coastal. If you're in the South Bay, definitely go check them out. And after Pete left, I'm talking with one of the owners who's sitting at a table with this couple. And the woman in the couple was telling me that her son played for Colorado when Mel Tucker was there. And so I bring that up, and she said Mel Tucker was the best man. And then just minutes later, I get that notification. It's almost too ironic. Pete, because we were there and now we're seeing this, we were actually watching Top Gun Maverick on the beach when I showed you this news. Immediately, what struck you?
Well, it's just like more stuff out of Michigan State, immediately goes back to the issues they had. Of course, the huge case that they had with Larry Nassar. It just seems like they can't get out from underneath this. There's a lot of intricacies here. I don't know all the details. Obviously, when you have a consensual relationship with someone, the lines get blurred. So, and I was hearing that it also got reported maybe to management versus the police first. So, I mean, it could have possibly been even worse for him had this gone to the police. But it's just not a good look. It's very sad. It takes away from the job he's trying to do there. Past behavior is usually a predictor of future performance. And so people saying that he's a good guy, he's succeeded in other places, you would hope that would mean that maybe there's more here than what we know. But as of now, you got to suspend them while you figure it out, and they just have to try to rebuild. But immediately was just like, oh, my God, again? Like, come on, That's the immediate thought, other than, of course, hopefully she's okay.
And we all wish the best for everybody in this situation. And whatever outcome is, unfortunately, it just has to be. Russ, get your thoughts real quick. And I also want to hear from you. If he is indeed out at Michigan State, who should they replace him with?
Oh, give me the tough stuff. Yeah. We all know what happened with Larry Nassar at Michigan State. It's definitely Michigan State that it's in shambles. I think he's done. I mean, I don't think they can keep him there with these allegations with what happened at Michigan State. It's sad because the guy was trying to work on something, but especially with all that's happening at Michigan State, you just gotta, you gotta watch your back. You can't have anything where anybody would say anything, so it's especially working with, young adults and women. It's just, that's the world we live in today. Now on who would take over that program, no clue. We're 3 weeks into the season, so I'm sure they'll suspend him and have an investigation and pass it off to one of his assistants.
If you had to throw a name out there, Joe, who would you put in that pool?
Just jokingly, I thought Urban, just for laughs, but no. Man, you would have to go so far out of just the Michigan State circle. I thought Mel Tucker was out of that circle. I mean, you have to go even out of that. It's too early. It's too early to say. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they just promote one of his assistants at this point.
Pete, you want to tag along to that?
Yeah, I think really the only thing you could do is just promote an assistant. I mean, the Harlan Barnett is probably the guy who's going to be the interim here. I think you just keep him unless there's another assistant on the team that clearly can show that there's a reason why they should be the head coach. I think you just ride it out. I mean, we're a couple weeks into the season. There's not much you can do realistically other than immediately start looking for a new coach for next year and try to see what you can do and salvage the recruits this year. I mean, Urban wouldn't be a bad call, although, I mean, geez, that guy's had a history of problems everywhere he's been. So I don't think bringing him in is going to necessarily fix the systemic problems that seem to be there, because all he is a bag of problems.
I mean, yeah,
Urban, it would be exciting, though.
Urban, wherever Urban goes, he wins. But I mean, he's got baggage that doesn't just stem from college football. It goes all the way up into the NFL. But the man has a hell of a resume when it comes to winning.
I think we can all agree that coaching-wise, just from a coaching perspective, Urban would do wonders. But PR nightmare for anywhere he goes. And especially in this given situation, that's not what you want to bring into East Lansing.
And Michigan State's probably not going to want to pay him what he wants to be paid. So, let alone he's probably making bank with Fox right now.
Yeah, I mean, why would you want to go coach and be on the road and recruiting where he's probably making $10 million, working 16 games a year?
Well, also just the prestige of Michigan State is not the same as other schools, and it's not like this happened at Michigan where he could potentially go coach there. They just don't have the prestige. So I think for him to go anywhere, it's going to have to be like one of the best jobs in college football at a historic institution. And Michigan State's not necessarily that in terms of football.
Yeah. But on a lighter note, let's get back to some better college football news. Pete and I were watching this live together at LMB Coastal. Texas goes on the road to Tuscaloosa, wins 34-24. Quinn Ewers threw 3 touchdowns, 349 yards. Jalen Miller on the other side. Not the worst game. 255, 2 touchdowns, but also 2 crucial picks. Let's start with Russ now. Is this a turning of the tide here? Are we getting to the point where Texas is actually back?
I mean, I think Texas, I'm gonna say Texas is looking that way. They look very good. Quinn Ewers, looked solid. I mean, for me, even I kind of look at Alabama, where it's like maybe it's a turning of the tide for them the last couple of years, where they had Bryce Young, and you go with Milroe, and Saban's thinking he can do what he did in the past, where he can, he had Brody Croyle and Greg McElroy, where he threw 58 yards to win the title against Texas, where now it's different. I mean, defense dominates, but you're seeing these teams put up 58 points a game. So is Milroe the guy who's going to get it done for them to get them to back to national title contention or winning national titles? Personally, for me, I don't think so. I texted Joe during this game. I'm like, watching it, I'm putting 8 guys in the box. I'm stacking the box. I'm like, hey, you beat me. If you beat me throwing the ball, hey, hell, you did your job, but you're going to have to do that. And I don't think he's the one who's going to do that.
We'll go on over to Pete now. Your thoughts on the game?
I mean, Texas legend Quinn Ewers, the guy was a stud. He lit it up. This is what he would have done last year if he didn't get hurt. No shocker to me. I picked them to win. Justin, I think you picked them to win. I will say, when we were watching the game, like the Texas guys were bigger, and maybe it's just the TV I was watching it on, but those Texas guys, they just looked bigger and more physical than Alabama. And I think with this NIL stuff, Saban's not the same coach. That's why he was against it all these years. That's why he wasn't happy when it came in. All the biggest and best talented players can now go other places. I mean, obviously, Texas A&M spending a bunch of money. We'll get to them later. That doesn't necessarily matter because the coach is bad. But I think Texas is back. Saban doesn't have the best players. And Quinn Ewers, I mean, he's going to keep balling because he doesn't want Archie Manning to take his spot. So I think Texas is definitely back at least for this season and hopefully when Archie comes in. But great game all around and happy to see Bama lose.
But sometimes for a quarterback, competition is the best thing.
That is true.
Lights a fire under his butt. He's like, I got to pick it up. I got this guy here. So that could, just made him work that much harder. And also, he shaved the mullet. So he's losing weight.
That's true. Yeah, he's more aerodynamic on the field.
Yeah.
Besides the Texas being bigger, I thought, and this, like, my eyes could be just bad, Ewers was calm, and collected. A little 80-yard drive to close them out at Alabama. The mystique isn't there. They're not the biggest and most physical football team in the SEC. And Ewers is a stud, man. So good for Stark because he desperately needed this win.
Joe.
I'm going to be completely honest. I was at my birthday dinner while this game was on, and I was literally just catching it through the view of dinner. So I went back and rewatched some of the highlights. Texas looked good. I mean, I will give Sark and Quinn Ewers all props. They went into Tuscaloosa. They were not intimidated, and they took care of business. On the other hand, though, and this is going to kill me to say because I was a big supporter of his, Alabama offense did not impress me. And again, Tommy Rees, former Notre Dame OC, it was not impressive. And again, I look at Jalen Milroe. I mean, great on his feet, great running the ball. But when he needed to make a pass, they were either sailing or they were hitting the ground. It just did not impress me. And so, when Russ texted me, my first thought was, well, okay, if you bench Milroe, who are you going to bring in? Tyler Buckner? There's two tails of the take for that one. You either have the South Carolina game where he throws 2 pick sixes, but then leads Notre Dame to win that series or win that game, or you have where he gets knocked out, injured against Marshall. So Alabama needs to figure out the quarterback because I think the defense looks okay. I think they're young, especially at safety. I think Alabama will be Alabama. And I'm not a big Alabama guy, but I'm not worried about Alabama. I think they will still be in the SEC championship. I tipped my hat to Texas. They went into Tuscaloosa and showed Alabama on that night who was boss.
I mean, it wasn't – Milroe's got an arm. I mean, some of those deep throws he made were very nice. It's just can he make the short, intermediate passes, the passes he needs?
He's not consistent. He's not consistent at all.
No consistency. I mean, he's got a nice arm, but it's you can't be always – you got to be on – if you have a cannon like that, you got to be on the money. It's can he make the check downs? I'm going back. I'm stacking the box to make him beat you.
Well, and see, that's the other thing too. There was no check. There was no. I very rarely saw them. They went to the line, and that was the play. There was no audible, and that, in my opinion, was always an issue at Notre Dame with Tommy Rees's offenses. That was the play, and that was it. And so, is it coaching with Tommy Rees? Is it a little bit of quarterback play? I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to say is when we were watching that, Texas could have won this game by more. That defense of theirs was in the backfield within 3 seconds of most snaps. If Alabama's quarterback wasn't so good about getting outside the pocket and using his feet, I mean, he would have been dead. So I don't understand. You're right, Joe. Why didn't Tommy Rees make some maybe quick throws right off the bat, screen? stuff to get the ball out of his hands when every time they were kind of blitzing him and getting through. So you're right. That's the same problem we had when he was at Notre Dame. And, as I said, past performance predicts future performance, and that's what he's doing right now. He's doing the same stuff he did previously.
This game signified to me, this whole thing started in January of 2010 when both these teams met in the national championship game at the Rose Bowl. And then early in the game, Colt McCoy gets knocked out, and nothing was ever the same for Texas that whole decade. They just were losing games they shouldn't. They were just a joke to watch. They would be losing games to Kansas or some other teams like BYU who had no business doing that well. And that game, it just seemed like Alabama came in and Saban, a.k.a. Satan, took those horns, crowned himself with those horns. He did, the devil, right? And then he wore them all throughout the next decade, wearing them, winning championships, everything. And he tried last year to take him back, Sark did. But nope, this time he finally sawed him off and glued him back onto this Longhorn. Texas is back, baby. Let's go. On the other side of Texas, I know this game didn't actually happen in Texas, but neither did the last one. But Texas A&M, they looked like shit against Miami on the road. Oh, God. Connor Weigman throws 5 touchdowns the first week of the season, just a week before. This week, not terrible. Again, 336, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But Tyler Van Dyke, a year ago I said that he was back. I was wrong. But I said that because Tyler Van Dyke, I believed in. Now he's got some better talent around him. Look at this man. He threw for 347 yards and 5 touchdowns to go along with that. So here's the question I want to pose to you. They've had little to no success under Jimbo Fisher. He's got that big contract. His buyout this year is $76.8 million. Joe, do they do it? Do they pull the trigger?
I mean, I know Texas A&M has that money, but that is a lot of money to pay a guy to not coach your team for however many years left he has. That is absurd. Now, talking about the game, it's all coaching. So, I mean, that's the reason why you would pay him. Literally, it was – Miami's a good team. Don't get me wrong. They're a good team, but Texas A&M is awful. Like, they are poorly coached. And again, they are shelling money out to all these 5 stars, and they just look like they have no idea what they're doing half the time. My props to the Canes. They went out there and took care of business in a half empty stadium, but they took care of business. And to answer your question, Justin, if I'm Texas A&M, I am seriously starting to consider paying that crazy amount of money to get Jimbo out of there.
Pete, what record do you think A&M would have to do this year to make that buyout happen?
Ooh, I think if they lose maybe one more game, especially a game that they shouldn't lose, I think he's done. I mean, with energy prices at an all-time high right now, reach into those oil pockets and shell out the cash, baby. Get him out. Not only did they look like shit, they are shit, a steaming pile of Middle Texas shit. He sucks. The Canes are back, at least for 1 week. He's got to go. He has not been good unless he's had Jameis Winston. You can't – think of this – we were in the NBA, right? You can only get like 5 players, realistically, 2 guys on the bench. Imagine you had 7 max contracts and your team's not even going to make the playoffs. You get rid of that coach right away. That's what they have to do. He's done. I'm not going to say dead because he'll resurface and come somewhere else. But he's definitely done at Texas A&M if they lose one more game. Maybe even now, because a loss to Miami, they're not gonna win the SEC. I don't think they get in the playoffs. I will say, Miami, like Joe said, the stark difference in coaching, you could see it. Van Dyke, more like Van Dam. He was like Jean-Claude Van Damme, knocking them out, 5 touchdowns, ridiculous. Let's go.
And Russ, your thoughts. What do you do in this situation if you're
what
the president?
What do I do? I have no clue what I do. That's a lot of money for a buyout, Justin. That is a ton of money. I know they're rich down in Texas, a lot of oil money, but you're paying the guy, 77+ million not to show up? What are you going to pay the next coach? The other thing is the big thing we were hearing about Texas A&M this year is Jimbo giving up the play call, bringing in Bobby Petrino. Well, it didn't look like much. I'm like, yeah, Weigman had a good game. What was it, against New Mexico State? And Miami looks good. I mean, Tyler Van Dyke was an NFL guy people were talking about before last year, and now he's a second year in Cristobal's system. Looks solid. So it's not like the talent is there for him. And, it just, he's got the playbook under his belt. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they do have 7 new assistants, but same head coach. And, I mean, can Miami bring back the Orange Bowl? I mean, let's get a stadium back on campus because they're playing at Hard Rock. And I'm like, this is just abysmal.
I know. That stadium is almost an hour away from the campus.
Yeah, I mean, from Coral Gables, that's a nice little trek. And these people are college students. They don't get – all these kids don't get NIL money.
Yeah, I do think they have charter buses back and forth, but still, it just doesn't feel like college football when you play in an NFL stadium. Sorry, Pitt. Sorry, USF. And sorry, Miami. But it just doesn't work that way.
Sorry, UCLA. That's why the Rose Bowl's never filled.
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, that's also how far away from, Westchester to Pasadena.
An hour and a half with traffic?
Yeah. You
On a
never
good
know.
day.
You never
Westwood,
know.
Westwood.
You never know going over the pass there what you're going to hit.
I will say this: if they get rid of Jimbo Fisher, first on the list for Michigan State head coach. Let's just put it there.
Yeah, I mean, why not? If you've got all that buyout money, he doesn't need to make all the money in the world, and Michigan State doesn't have those deep pockets like they do. Speaking of which, side note, how does Bobby Petrino keep getting head coaching jobs? Somebody explain that to me.
Didn't he have some sketchy scandal happen not too long ago too?
I can name about like 3 or 4 off the top of my head.
Those are all in the past. Come on.
Yeah. Went down and played. Did go to Missouri State, and now is back with his friend Jimbo.
Yeah, we'll never know. I guess they'll just pay for anybody who's like, hey, we could call plays. It's all because he coached Lamar Jackson and when he won the Heisman, I guess.
Very true.
So moving on along here, before we go any further, we have to hear the Russ report.
Oh yeah. All right. So Joe's still leading the charge this week with 19. Pete made Justin's at 15. Pete made a hell of a comeback. And he's at 14-5, and then I'm in Pete's spot in the rear with 11-5. I didn't get I called the Tulane upset, kind of going off of Pratt playing. They gave a fight, but that definitely, I think if Pratt was playing the game would have been different. But I was the only one who didn't call one last week, so we are changing it up a little. It's got to be 6.5 to get 5 points. Anything below is going to get 2. A cover is going to get 1. So just a little more intrigue, a little more fun. But let's get into it, Justin.
Okay, let's dive right into our parlay picks today. So we have not the greatest slate of games this week, but we're just picking the scraps and seeing what we have here. We're going to start with Virginia at Maryland. So this game in College Park, Maryland is a minus 14.5 favorite. Over-under is 49.5. Maryland minus 650. UVA plus 470. Now, Virginia's had a rough start to the season. We know they're dealing with a lot of emotions, and they're 0-2. Russ did call the upset with JMU last week, so props to him. So we're going to start with him.
It actually didn't turn out to be an upset. By Saturday, they were favored.
When we called it, it was, so it counts.
I wish if I went with my initial gut, I would have got it right. But I second guessed myself, as a great gambler always does, and you lose. So I was going back and forth on this. I'm definitely going Maryland money line and over. And they only beat Charlotte last week by 18, but I think Virginia's reeling, so I'm going to go with Maryland to cover, the money line, and the over.
Okay, love it. PD Parlay, tell us.
Yeah, I think those are all good calls, Russ. I think that the only thing I would do is I would, obviously we're not doing it on here, but I would probably buy it down a point or two just to maybe make it 13 and a half so they could cover by 2 touchdowns. But yeah, I'm taking Maryland to cover. I'm taking the over, and I'm going to take Maryland money line. I think Virginia's kind of dead. Yeah, so that's what I'm going with. Their season's probably over.
Joe.
Yeah, I just want to comment. All of these games were just tough because they're just random, and it's like there's no real big standout game that caught my attention. With that said, though, yeah, I'm like everyone else. I'm taking Maryland to cover, taking the over, and I'm taking Maryland money line.
There we go. And with me, gosh, that spread is pretty big. I don't know if I would take that. So I'll take Virginia to beat the spread. And I'm going to go – I'll take the over too, and I'll take the Maryland money line. Next up, we have Penn State at Illinois. We got some Big Ten action here. Penn State is a 15-point road favorite here. Over-under is 48.5. Penn State minus 600, Illinois plus 440. We're going to start with Joe this time.
Okay, so this game was actually really interesting because if you remember the last time they played, I believe it was 2021, and they went to 8 overtimes, which was absurd. Needless to say, this game is not going to 8 overtimes. However, I am giving Illinois the points. I'm taking Penn State with the money line, and I'm taking the under.
All righty, Pete. Yeah, that game was pretty crazy, Joe. That's immediately what I thought of. And I can't remember if that game was at Penn State or where that was at, but crazy.
It was at Happy Valley.
That's it. Okay, it was. Yeah, Illinois went on the road for that one. So I think on this one, I'm just going to take Penn State. They're probably going to win by 3 touchdowns. I'm going to take Penn State to cover. I do think you're maybe right. It's a pretty low over-under, but I just don't think it's going to necessarily be a ton of scoring. It might even be 20-17 or something. So I think I'm going to go the under and then obviously pound the Penn State money line.
I like your thinking there, both of you. Penn State, at times, has looked like the best team in the country so far this year, but they haven't played the best competition. And that being said, too, they're going to Illinois. Illinois does have a stingy defense. I was watching their game against Kansas last week, and those linebackers, they're pretty tough. Brett Bielema's got those guys coached up pretty well. So for that reason, I'll take Penn State with the spread, but I'll also go the under here because there may not be all that much scoring, especially being in Urbana-Champaign, whatever. And yeah, Penn State money line for me. Russ.
Yeah, we're on the similar page. Penn State's got to cover. Penn State's got to show that they're back. So Penn State covering money line, and I'm gonna go with the under too on that. That's a good call. Bielema's got a tough defense. But side note, I think we all can agree, bucket list item, Happy Valley whiteout is on all of our bucket lists. Would be amazing.
100,000 plus people? Absolutely. That would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Okay, next up, we have an old rivalry, Big 12 and SEC here, Kansas State at Mizzou. This Kansas State team is pretty good. They are a 5-point favorite on the road, 47.5 over-under, minus 205 for the Wildcats. And then the Tigers of Mizzou, 170, plus 170. PD, let's start with you this time.
I think I'm going to take Mizzou to upset them. And obviously it can't be my upset pick because I think it's only 5 points. It's not the 6 or the 6.5, whatever the rules are now. But I'm going to take money line on Missouri. Okay, all right. So this is my upset pick then. I'm going to take Missouri, upset of the week. And then I'm going to take the over because I think it's going to be kind of a shootout. And it's a pretty low over-under at 47.5, maybe even by a point or two on it. And then, I'm going to take Missouri to cover. So I'm all Missouri on this and the over.
Interesting piece. So my thoughts is going to show more than anything. I think it's going to be a lot closer than that money line says. So I'll take Mizzou to beat the spread here, and I'll go with the under. I think it's going to come down to about a field goal. And I'm going to take Kansas State to win with the money line as well. Russ.
I'm going K-State's gotta cover. K-State money line, K-State over.
Love it. Quick and easy, Joe.
Yeah, I think Kansas State's just gonna overpower these guys. Second year under Colin Klein, OC. So I have Kansas State with -5, taking the over because I definitely agree with you, Pete. I think it's definitely going to be a high-scoring game, and I'm taking Kansas State money line.
All right. So speaking of that, it is kind of early rivalry week. I'm not necessarily sure this is a huge, intense rivalry, but South Carolina going to Athens to face Georgia, the number 1 team. UGA is a -27.5 favorite here at home, 54.5 over/under, -8,000 for the Bulldogs, whereas the Gamecocks come in as +2,200 favorites. Russ, do you have any confidence in Spencer Rattler to pull the upset?
All right, so 27 points, 27 and a half is a lot of points. I got to do a little catching up here. I know it's early, but I got an idea where everybody's going. So I mean, if I just want to stay, pat with everybody, I don't really gain any ground. So I'm going to go UGA to cover, and then I'm going to go Georgia to win in the over.
Okay, Joe.
If South Carolina had put on a better performance against North Carolina, I would be seriously questioning if they could, keep it within 2-3 touchdowns. But they looked awful against North Carolina, and North Carolina is not the Bulldogs. So I have Georgia with the 27. I would probably do a PD parlay and maybe see if I can bring that down just a little bit. Because 27 is a lot of points. But I'm taking the over, and I'm taking moneyline Georgia. This is an easy one. It's at Georgia.
Pete.
Yeah, I'm there with you, Joe. For a second, I thought, maybe Spencer Rattler can rattle some cages and get in there and maybe at least cover this. But, I mean, only scoring 17 points against North Carolina, I just don't see it happening. I think Georgia's going to kick the living crap out of them at home. Georgia's kind of had a whatever season so far, and obviously this is usually a rivalry game, so I think they're going to come out and beat the doors off of them. So I'm taking everything on Georgia, the over. They're going to put up points, and I'd be shocked if the Gamecocks even put up 21 points.
Now, see, I'm going to go against the grain a little bit. I'm still going to pick Georgia in the money line to win. That's a no-brainer. But looking at this, Georgia hasn't really impressed me with starting quick. It starts. We haven't seen Carter SEC defense yet. They played, UT Martin. I forget who they played last week. Those are tune-up games to get you feeling good and confident. But I don't think that defense is exactly the same as last year. And it's not. They lost a lot of guys. I think they're going to get a nice little wake-up call, and they're still going to win, but I'm going to pick South Carolina not to cover that spread and beat it. And I'll take the over as well. Okay, now moving forward along here. Washington at Michigan State. So Washington here is a -16 favorite. Over/under is 58. Washington -800 and Michigan State +550. Last year, Washington put themselves on the map with this game, but it was in Seattle, and upsetting Michigan State at home really showed us, okay, this team is different. Michael Penix is a dog. So my picks here, I'll go Washington with everything that's happening at Michigan State. It's going to be a big distraction. I'll take Washington to cover that easily. Also, go the over and take the money line. Joe.
Before all this kind of went down at Michigan State, it was at Michigan State. I was considering the points on Michigan State, but with everything going on, no way in hell am I going anywhere near Michigan State. So, Washington with the 16 over and Washington money line. Everything on Washington.
We're all heavy on the Huskies, it sounds like so far. Russ.
Oh, yeah, it's short and sweet. Obviously, they're my college football pick, Penix, Heisman. So Washington on everything in the over.
All right, Pete, round us out.
I mean, there's no other way to go. If we're all wrong, then we're all wrong together. I just don't see it. I think they're going to get off and probably cakewalk through this thing. I mean, everyone always thinks when an interim head coach comes in, he can rally the guys, and he's probably going to do that for a little bit. But I just think Penix is going to ball out. They're all business here, so a little 3 time zones doesn't really matter. They're going to get off the plane, kick some ass, get back on the plane, and go back to the West Coast. So Washington.
Who's the power in the new power in the Big Ten here?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. So yeah, I'm on everything Washington, every single one of it.
Yeah, Washington's not going to overlook these guys, regardless of what's going on. They're going to be locked in, ready to go.
They're on a mission. They're on a mission this year.
Back to that playoff. People forget. Okay, like I said, this is kind of early rivalry week in the season here for some teams. The last 2 here are rivalry games. We have at Florida. The Vols is a 6.5-point road favorite. Here is 57.5. Tennessee's also a minus 250 favorite with UF plus 205. We're going to start with Pete this time.
Yeah, this was a game that I actually kind of considered to maybe have as my upset. I mean, Florida's had a disappointing season so far. The game's in the swamp. The Gator crowd's going to be rolling. I just think, I think Florida's kind of dead this year. I think Tennessee's going to go in there and they're going to beat them by at least 2 touchdowns. They're too powerful. Their offense is too good. And I think Florida's been kind of their season's kind of been deflated a little bit after especially after week 1. So I'm taking Tennessee to pound them. Tennessee's going to win this one probably 42-10. Actually, you know what? 52-10. So we hit that over. Tennessee 6.5 cover. Hit the over at 57.5 and pound the Volunteers. I don't have to volunteer to watch this game. I know what's going to happen, so I might not even watch it. That's how confident I am.
Oh, Pete, we are going 2 different avenues today. Man, I think if you know anything about this rivalry, it is pretty intense and cutthroat. Neither of these fan bases like each other whatsoever. And if you've been to the swamp, it is a very, very tough place to win. Now, I know Florida looks terrible. Graham Mertz does not look like the guy so far. He never looked like the guy at Wisconsin. So the thing is here, it's still a rivalry. It's still very intense. And if you look at Joe Milton last week, Tennessee didn't look good as a whole. They only won like 30-13, something like that, against their cupcake. So Tennessee, with that 6.5, I don't think they're going to reach that. I'll still take Florida to cover that. And looking at the over-under, I think this is going to be an under game here. Both teams are going to struggle to score because they're just going to throw their best punch at each other. I'll still take Tennessee in by a field goal, just get out of there because they've got high hopes. Florida does not. That's my pick there. Russ, you get?
Yeah, I got you. Joe, what you got?
Yeah, I'm with you, Pete. I mean, if Florida had put on a better showing against Utah, I may question this one. I may have even said, hey, this might be my upset of the week. But no, Florida looks flat. Florida looks like, why are they even playing this season? I realize this is a rivalry game, so that is why I'm staying away from the over-under. I think this will be fairly close. But with that said, I'm taking Tennessee with the points, 6.5, and I'm taking Tennessee money line.
Let's go, Joe.
Go Rocky Top.
Rocky Top, you'll always be home, sweet home to me.
The other thing I would say.
What's up?
Before you talk, Russ, the thing I would say is they were disappointed against Appalachian State because they were getting ready for this game, baby. About to ball out, son.
Well,
let's go.
App State was North
They
Carolina.
were playing Appalachian State.
That was UNC Pete. But on the side, yeah, I'm taking Tennessee to cover. I'm taking Tennessee on the money line. I'm taking the over. Hype. They don't play much defense down there, so let's go.
My bad, Austin P. The thing online said APSU. I thought Appalachian State University. Come on, it's just like the same stuff.
Austin P. Clarksville, Tennessee, baby.
Isn't Jack Daniels distilled in Clarksville?
No, that's Murphy. That's not Murfreesboro. Shoot, I'm dropping it.
Lynchburg?
Mhm.
It's something with an L. It might be Lynchburg.
Oh, okay.
Now, Lynchburg is Liberty.
It's
that's right. That's right. Yep.
Anyways, I'm going to move on here to our game. Can you guys still hear me? We good?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right, well, we're going to move on to our game of the week here, which is, oh gosh, one of my favorite rivalries in college football. The Backyard Brawl is back, baby, and I love to see it. Last year was reignited, and just made me so happy that it's a classic college football rivalry here again, live and breathing. So this time, Morgantown is the host city, Pittsburgh, West Virginia. Pitt is a 1-point road favorite here. The over-under is 50.5, minus 115, and WP plus 105. I'm going to pick this as my week here. West Virginia is at home. I'll get them with the money line. They're going to smash that spread, and they're going to smash that over too. Let's go.
Well, Justin, I will throw this in for you. A little caveat: 1 point is not an upset. So you going with the cover?
So I can't do it. Shit.
Hey, you can go with the cover. If they cover, that's all you did.
Okay, fine. Let's do it.
Just trying to keep everybody honest here. Doing my job. I'm trying to get earn my paycheck.
Aren't we all, Joe?
Well, I just looked at it, and it's changed. West Virginia is 1 point and a half favorites now, so that definitely changed.
So Justin can do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed in about 8 hours. So, this was a tough one. The name of the rivalry says what this game is all about. Like, it is a brawl, a bunch of just hicks from, West Virginia, Morgantown, and then you have Pittsburgh, Steel City. With that being said, I'm going Pitt. I'm going Pitt. I'm taking Pitt and I'm taking money line Pitt, and I'm doing the over. I'm staying away from the spread.
Can I get a clarification though? Are we going to go with the initial West Virginia getting a point, or are we going to go with the updated version?
Let's do the initial, because that's the one that originally, and it's just changed.
Okay, I mean, I said it was a pick 'em this morning, basically on when I looked, and now it's changed.
Yeah, so I saw it at 1 with Pitt favored 1 point, and then it changed to even, and then I just checked now. West Virginia's at 1.5 points, so there's some money moving on that game. Russ, did you get my
I guess
two picks?
Yeah, we got. What you got, Pete? What you want to jump in?
They always say, what's the saying in the Steel City? You got bend, not break. The steel is rusty. It's about to break. West Virginia, Mountain Mama. These boys are taking it home for mom. West Virginia's going to win this game. We're going to hit the over. They're going to cover. I don't know if they're an underdog or a favorite based on what we're talking about, but they're going to win. So I'm taking West Virginia money line, West Virginia to cover, and the over. Let's go. Pittsburgh, as I said last week, is not what some people think they are. They lost to Cincinnati. They're going to lose here. Let's go.
All right.
And Russ, round us out.
All right. So, if we're going, I'm going to go Pitt with the money line. I'm going over. And, if we're going the initial, I'm going to just Pitt the cover. And then
Excellent.
we want to go on I know Pete got his upset of the week. Justin, what are you going to go with now?
Oh gosh, my upset of the week here. I just don't see one on this slate, so I may just sit that one out this week.
Well, hey Justin, like I said, you can take a cover game. You can still get points if you want to call a cover. and you don't have to. It doesn't have to be 6.5. You want to cut under 5 points will be over 6.5 and over. That's a big upset, you know. So I'm not putting like, you know, it's just, you know, what do you want to go for, the big money? You know, small points get it done. Sometimes, unless you're playing Bill Belichick, where you got to score touchdowns every time.
While Justin's doing that, Russ, I'll give you mine. I'm taking Northern Illinois over Nebraska, 11.5. I think Nebraska is shot. So I'm going with the Huskies.
All right. Well, I mean, I'll jump in here. I'm taking Houston over TCU with 7.5.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yep. Another one that I liked, but I couldn't do it, was Mississippi State was getting 9.5 over LSU. Was getting 9.5 against LSU. So, but I was LSU is good.
Is that in Death Valley or Starkville?
That's in Starkville.
Oh yeah, that should be a good game.
I think it'll be close, but I was like, nah. I think LSU is gonna. It's not a primetime game. Brian Kelly will take care of business.
Yeah, the other one I thought, guys, was maybe Virginia Tech, a 7-point underdog versus Rutgers. I just still can't shake the fact that Rutgers is favored in any game ever in football. So that's why I was like, maybe I go with that one. So my secondary pick, upset of the week, is that game, Virginia Tech to win outright against Rutgers.
Well, you know, I mean, Rutgers was favored once. You might as well make it twice. They were favored against Northwestern. Why not make it twice this year?
Like where your head's at, Russ. Like where your head's at.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, we got you. And just a side note, Lynchburg, Tennessee is where Jack Daniels was founded.
Let's go.
There's a Lynchburg, Tennessee too, just like Lynchburg, Virginia, where the Liberty Flames are.
There's a lot of duplicate names here in the U.S.
Yes, there sure are. You know, I learned because of College Game Day that there's a Detroit, Oregon. Because years ago, when Michigan State was visiting Oregon, somebody had a sign saying, at least Oregon doesn't have Detroit. But then somebody took that meme and corrected it, showing Detroit, Oregon on a map. That being said, Russ, can I do the cover game for Florida, Tennessee, where Florida covers?
Yeah, it's all you. I got you. I mean, hey, that's actually 6.5. You're right on the line, so you're good.
Excellent. Okay. Well, before my thing cuts out completely, let's move on. We've got our predictions coming up here. Sleeper team, I've still got Notre Dame. I think that they're still being slept on, but they're going to wake everybody up when they play Ohio State in a couple weeks and show that they are the real deal this time around. Let's go Joe next. Sleeper team.
I mean, it's still Duke. I'm riding the Blue Devils still.
Pete.
It's still Notre Dame. A hurricane couldn't stop us against NC State. We're riding the hurricane, riding that wave until we come up against Ohio State. So I'm sticking with Notre Dame. Let's go, baby.
And Russ.
You know, I'm on the Beavers. You know, I'm on the Beavers until they prove me wrong. Who doesn't
Big
like
Beaver guy.
Yeah. Who doesn't like it? So, you know, yeah, that's my pick. Sticking with it until they prove me wrong, which I hope they don't do that much this year.
Yeah, man. Okay. And next up, we have Coach of the Year. No change for me. Dion is lighting things up in Boulder like we have never seen before, or at least not since 1990, which I've never seen before because I wasn't born. Russ?
I'm still on my same pick. Was it Kalen? I can't even remember his last name.
DeBoer.
It's late here, guys. It's late. So just cut me a little slack. Yeah, but I'm still on my same pick. Kalen DeBoer.
Okay, Pete.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with mine, Marcus Freeman. I think I'm going to lean more towards Marcus Freeman than Lincoln Riles. So I think I'm going to get him out of there. I think the job that the Notre Dame coach is doing is great, especially losing Reese. Actually, maybe that was a blessing in disguise, So I'm sticking with Marcus Freeman, baby. But I will admit, Dion is electric.
And over here, Joe.
Yeah, mine are the same still. Marcus Freeman, Mike Norvell. Just we'll keep riding it until one of those wheels fall off.
And let's ride on to the Heisman picks. Now, over here, I know I've been on the Sam Hartman train, and I still am, but I'm just thinking, how do you stop Caleb Williams? How do you? Like, nobody has figured out a way to do it yet. He picked up exactly where he left off a year ago, and nobody is stopping him. He's throwing 5 touchdowns a game. He may do that all season. We'll see. So for now, I'm going to give him the slight edge, but Hartman is right there for me still. He's right there. They both are like neck and neck. Pete.
Yeah, you're coming over to my side, Justin. Except I'm going to stick with what I had and have Caleb Williams ahead of Sam Hartman. I do think also Caleb Williams' ceiling is a lot higher too, so he has the ability to make some spectacular and amazing physical plays. So I'm just going to stick with Caleb Williams here with Sam Hartman, right back there. We'll have to wait and see until they play, but Caleb Williams is my guy.
Joe.
Yeah, I'm sticking to Travis Hunter. I think, again, he is he's a stud. There's no other word to explain it. He's a stud.
Two-way player. He is the greatest two-way player in college football right now and for the last maybe half decade or so since Jabril Peppers. Russ.
I mean, I'm still on Penix. I'm on the Penix train, so let's go.
Okay. And lastly, our CFP picks. Let's start with Russ now.
All right, so I'm going to, a little change up, definitely going Georgia still. Washington, I'm all in on the Huskies. Michigan, and then I'm split on Texas FSU. I'm going Texas just because of the fact that they won a big game on the road. Yes, FSU did beat LSU at a neutral site game, but it was in Orlando. Texas went to Tuscaloosa and won. So I'm going to put Texas in there with FSU sitting a little on the outside, ready to pounce.
Pete?
I think I'm going to keep it the same, but I will say it's getting harder just because of Michigan's schedule to kind of justify them being in there, other than they should run through the Big Ten and hopefully win the Big Ten championship. But so I'm going to stick with Notre Dame, Georgia, Michigan, Tennessee. If I were to take Michigan out, I would put Florida State in there. But I'm going to keep it as it is for now, just to kind of see how the next couple weeks play out.
Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, so I had one change. I have Ohio State, Florida State, Notre Dame. I took out Alabama. I think they will make it to the SEC championship, but I think just Georgia's gonna just run all over them. So instead of Alabama, I added Georgia.
Very nice. And I had a big shakeup in mind too. Just looking at how the teams are playing as of now this week, I'll throw Georgia in there because they are the default best team right now, being number one. They haven't played anybody. We'll learn more about them. I was on the Michigan train just because they're going to fly through their schedule. But like Pete said, the more you look at the schedule, the less you can justify, well, what if Penn State does really well and goes undefeated? I'm going to put Penn State in there for now because they look like the better team at the moment with a much tougher schedule than Michigan. And then for now, I'm also going to put USC in there. I could be proven wrong, but what they have proven to me is maybe their defense is legit this year, at least more legit than last year. I got to give some kudos to Alex Grinch. He is looking a lot better recently. And then I'm going to go with Florida State. I'm not ready for Texas to jump in just yet. They still have to prove to me that this wasn't just one game where they play and come out on top because they always play to their competition. Florida State, though, they look like they'll crush everybody in the ACC, and it'll be tough to deny that. And we're going to wrap this up with a couple of things. So another game to keep an eye on this week, Oklahoma at Tulsa. Now, the Sooners are heavy favorites, 27.5, but do keep in mind, Dillon Gabriel has never beat Tulsa. He always circled that game at UCF. He always talked a big game, and then he choked both times and lost to Tulsa no matter how bad they were, how bad they couldn't score. Dillon Gabriel just never showed up. He's now at Oklahoma, which is a lot different than UCF, granted, but they're going back to Tulsa, his arch nemesis. I'm not saying that they're going to lose to Tulsa, but what I'm saying is that line to me is just very interesting. They have him throwing almost 4 touchdowns against them. I just don't know if I see it. Any thoughts?
I mean, honestly, when I think of Oklahoma, I'm thinking that Red River rivalry game with Texas. That's the next big game that Texas and Oklahoma have to play for the Big 12. I would be shocked if Oklahoma doesn't even hit the spread, to be honest. I think they're going to run all over Tulsa. But with, stats have always been broken, so you never know.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, Justin, I didn't know that he had an 0-2 record against them. I will say this past week, Sam Hartman's record against NC State wasn't that good, and he kind of demolished them. So I guess it could go either way, but it definitely makes it more interesting, and I'm definitely going to actually watch that game. I probably was just going to pass on it and watch something else.
Mm-hmm. Russ, anything?
I got nothing. Just it's a little down week, definitely after the last couple of weeks, but we still got college football, so can't complain, right?
That's right. And then now for my 3 cheers of the week. So first cheer goes out to Russ's guy from Oregon State, DJ Uiagalelei, former Clemson quarterback. He is balling out this year, proving maybe he wasn't the problem down in Clemson. 346 yards, 8 total touchdowns so far this year. So cheers to you, young man, reinventing yourself on the other coast. Look, I was never on the train. I never thought he could actually throw, but now seeing Cade Klubnik struggle in Dabo's system, maybe it wasn't him. Hi, he's not the problem. It's me, Dabo says.
Hey, Southern California boy, Joe, and where that's St. John Bosco alums.
Oh, yeah. Shout out St. John Bosco. I went to their game Friday. Them or Mater Dei for another national championship in high school football. So go Bosco.
Let's go. Next up here, second cheer goes out to Steve Sarkisian. Sark going on the road, facing his former boss, Nick Saban, coming out with the win against the almighty Alabama. And now Matt Ryan cringes because Nick Saban is 28-3 against his former assistants. Sorry, Matt, but cheers to you, Sark.
Especially
Great job.
Where he's come from.
Great job for Texas. Sark needed this so freaking badly. And I love watching Alabama lose. So it's just so funny. It's almost like when you tempt fate with those, he never loses to his assistants, and then he loses. And I love it.
That's right. And final cheer here. Speaking of Boston College, where Matt Ryan went, speaking of Matt Ryan, he went to Boston College. Boston College played a game against Holy Cross, College of the Holy Cross. And although Holy Cross did lose, they kept it very close. And those fans showed up and showed out for Holy Cross. They took up an entire section of the stadium and stayed the entire time. So my third cheer goes out to the Holy Cross fans out there. Way to show up on the road, support your team, almost pulling the upset. Hopefully someday you will pull the upset, but hopefully it's not against any of our teams. Good job.
Hey, Justin, I got a quick side note for you. You might have cut out a little bit. On the Tennessee pick, you're going with Florida across the board now, correct?
I'm taking Florida to cover it, but I'm still taking Tennessee money line here.
Okay. So you're going the cover. All right.
I think it's just going to come down to a field goal or some stupid play that the Gators are going to pull and then lose, because that just seems to be the Florida way nowadays.
Sweet. Thank you for clearing that up for me. I appreciate it.
You got it. And we are out of time. Look at that. We made it through this week. I can't wait for some more college football this weekend. So thank you for tuning in to Touchdown in Paradise in the Fins Talk Sports Network. I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
I'm Joe.
I'm Russ.
And we'll see you next week after a great weekend of college football. Be sure to subscribe and keep up for all of our picks, all of our shows. See you soon.